to another installment of Friday Q&A. I hope you're all excellent. As always, thank you so much for this week's questions. If you have questions you would like me to answer in next week's Q&A, simply pop them in the comments below. If you don't feel too comfortable leaving a comment on the public comments, then find me on Instagram, write me a private message. I can answer your questions and we'll do it totally anonymously if that's something you want to do. A big shout out to all my awesome patrons over on Patreon as well. And a further shout out to everybody who has gone out of their way to buy some ragdoll music over the last couple of months while we haven't been able to gig or tour. It has helped and I really appreciate it. And I really all hope you're enjoying the music as well. So let's get into some questions for this week. We've got a couple of questions related to gear as always, some music questions, a few kind of general questions, and we are coming up on Q&A number 100 very, very soon. So if there's anything you would like me to specifically address in that one, I think I'll kind of make that an extra special long one or something like that. We'll do something to celebrate 100 episodes of the Q&A. We're not there yet though. So the first question is about Ash Stratocasters. So I have my 1977 Fender Strat here, which has an Ash body, and it's heavy. It's a very, very heavy Strat. I have it's a Fender YJM neck and electronics with a Warmoth Mary Kay White colored body on there. And that's really lightweight swamp ash. And that is almost a kilogram lighter than this guitar. So this one is, a lot of the time I just think of Fenders as light guitars. That's not necessarily the case, but this is kind of towards the heavier end of the spectrum. How much that has to do with the sound of the guitar, I don't know. I would probably chalk the sound of this guitar more up to the Sir Michael Landau pickups that I have in it. And I was teasing last week that I had bought a new amp. I actually picked it up today. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'm playing through it at the moment. So I'll just do some playing and you can try to guess what the brand new amp is. But these old Strats do require a little bit of love. But when you get them going, they're pretty solid guitars. Beautiful stuff. Let's talk about some more guitar related things on here. The Blue guitar, Iridium. Thomas Blug designed that and he's pretty awesome. I know he worked with Hughes and Kettner for a long time and was responsible for some of their more popular amps. I've actually never played a H&K in the studio. I think I've played one a couple of times in a guitar store. Probably a candidate for an amp that I should do some demos of. So if there's anybody out there in Perth who has a Hughes and Kettner amp they want me to demo, get in touch. We can hook something up. That would be really, really fun. But I have heard some really cool clips of the Blue guitar Iridium. Michael Nielsen's clips sounded fantastic, and I know he's got an interview with Thomas that I really enjoyed. The my beef with the Blue guitar Iridium is in the marketing blurb. They talk about dynamic IRs, and that doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. IRs are not dynamic. What are you talking about? That's double speak. That's an oxymoron. That doesn't make sense. But otherwise, it actually sounds fantastic. And the fact that it has IRs in it, I think that's a cool thing, whether they're dynamic or not. So yeah, very keen to check one of those out. And it seems to be like the modeler for people who don't want to use a modeler. So I would be very keen just to kind of look at it through that particular lens. So yeah, speaking of gear, speaking of Michael Nielsen, shout out to Michael Nielsen. Go and subscribe to his channel because it's amazing. His video with the H&K Access, this is all tied together really nicely. I didn't even realize these threads were all related. I was really surprised with how that sounded. I have a few old guitar magazines that, whenever that came out, there were a couple of little ads for it, and never thought too much about it. And when he did the comparison with the Tri-Axis, I was like, the Tri-Axis is going to smoke this thing. But it held its own. It was pretty cool. It's kind of crept onto my list of rack units I would like to acquire at some point, along with like 100 other things. So yeah, the the Michael Toran collection. Shout out to Michael Toran as well, because his collection of gear. I would love to have the ability to go over to that studio and just kind of noodle around for a couple of hours or a couple of months. But yeah, you've heard a lot of his stuff over on Nielsen's channel. So yeah, I thought the Axis sounded really pretty good. And another question, kind of related to those things, can I do a video talking about, so I'm just going to keep my Strat here because it's really comfortable. I can rest my chin on it while I'm answering questions about using EQ pedals and drive pedals together. I've done a video talking about pre-gain or post-gain placement with EQ pedals, I feel like more than once. And it kind of applies to that, but if there's particular drive pedals, like maybe if we took a kind of classic fuzz circuit or something like a Boss SD1 or a Tube Screamer and had a look at how that would interplay with a graphic EQ, I would normally go for like a graphic EQ together with a drive pedal rather than stacking two drive pedals. I just find it's a little bit more versatile. So if that's a video you all want to hear, let me know in the comments section. And it's kind of related to gear, but it's not really. Some of you have noticed that my nails are really, really, really short, really particularly short. And I do this because, one, I do have a habit of chewing my nails, so it's my way of not chewing my nails and making them a serrated mess. I don't know if you can see this. Where is it on my arm? Somewhere. You might be able to see. This is like the worst angle ever. They're kind of healing up, but what happens is I have eczema, so I'm a particularly itchy person, and normally I've kind of got that under wraps, but if I am asleep and there's the tiniest little jagged edge on my nails, I'll start scratching myself in my sleep and I will absolutely tear myself to shreds. It's not very fun. And basically the only solution that I found to that is to keep my nails really short. And I think I've been doing it for so long that they look painful, but they're not. Believe me, they don't hurt at all. So the only downside is I can't have long nails for doing like fingerstyle stuff, which I love the sound of. So I have just kind of learnt to deal with using flesh in that particular situation. Mesa Boogie Badlander looks pretty sweet. I got a message from my buddy Ryan over at Plagueside Studios. I woke up to it. Again, shout out to Ryan at Plagueside Studios. Go and subscribe to his channel. Similarly, fantastic content. And we were both kind of flipping out that they're making that available in a rack mount option. So you can finally go and buy a brand new Ractifier. Absolute bucket list piece of rack gear is one of the older Mesa heads that you can get, the Rectifier racks. They look really cool. I think John Sykes used them at one point, which is pretty interesting. But the Badlander looks good. The demos I've heard, it sounds kind of tight and nasty, which I think a lot of people wish Rectos were a little bit tighter. They want the nastiness, but they want the tightness as well. So I'd be very keen to try one of those out. It's one of those just kind of, Mesa, just take my money. I know you make great stuff. The fact that they've got their Cab Clone 2, the actual reactive load version, and there's built-in IRs, you could get just the rack version and you could gig with that direct. That's kind of cool and kind of novel. Yeah, it looks fantastic. I've got serious gas for that one. Another piece of gear to round out the gear section that I have serious gas for, the GigRig G3. I watched all the demos with that, and the fact that they make a rack mount version kind of looks like something that would be perfect in my rack if I ever wanted to, spend $1,000 on cabling and permanently cabling everything up. So it looks good, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know if I could go that far with it. But yeah, it looks absolutely pro grade. And I play with someone who has a G2 for their bass rig, and it's wonderful. It's a really well put together switching system. Alrighty, let's hear some more tones from this mystery amplifier. Hopefully the type of tone I'm playing with gives you a hint one way or another in terms of what this particular amp can do. put a little bit of delay on that in post right now. That's really, really nice. I'm digging that. Queensryche. Do I like Queensryche? What do I think about some of their more popular albums? I love Queensryche. They are easily in my top 10 favorite bands of all time. Empire is probably in my top 5 albums of all time in any genre. I'm a Queensryche freak. I absolutely love all their stuff, and I own all their stuff. And for the type of music that I write, specifically with Ragdoll, they're a massive influence, not just on me in the way I write, but the other two guys in the band. Queensryche are one of those bands who, will be writing something and we'll sort of go, what should we do in this section? It's like, well, why don't we do like a Queensryche thing with some distorted bass, doing some syncopated hits with the drums and, get a particular guitar sound happening. So yeah, I absolutely love Queensryche. If you're getting into Queensryche, I think Rage for Order, Operation Mindcrime, and Empire is one of the best kind of sequences of albums ever released. If you're kind of more of a metalhead, you can start with the Rage for Order stuff and it will scratch your itch and that will get you into Mindcrime and into Empire. If you're more of just like a hard rock fan, do it in the opposite direction and I'm sure you'll end up loving all of it. So yes, I love Queensryche. Another very underrated progressive band that I was asked about, Kansas. Also, probably one of my favorite bands from, well, I guess they had several eras and they're still going. They just released a new album that's pretty good as well. The kind of classic lineup with Steve Walsh is probably my favorite lineup of the band, but I do really like when they had the Elefante brothers in the band. That album's a pretty cool, it's a little bit more of a, I guess, all those bands kind of went in that like foreigner pop rock direction, but it's still really, really solid. Like Play the Game Tonight, great song. But songs like The Wall and Song for America and People of the South Wind, I think, just fantastic stuff. Kerry Livgren, amazing guitar player, super, super underrated songwriter. And they also wrote one of my favorite songs ever and a song that I teach to just about everybody I teach guitar, Dust in the Wind. So if you haven't got into Kansas's back catalog, do it. I remember the first time listening to them, I was sort of like, big Dream Theater fan, obviously. And I was like, I know that Petrucci said he loves Rush and he loves Yes. And obviously Dream Theater had the like Yes plus Metallica thing going on, but you can kind of hear some very similar elements. Like Kansas are kind of like a proto Dream Theater in a lot of ways. So yeah, I love Kansas. Speaking about music, and progressive music, can I write something or play something with some wild polyrhythms in it? Well, I took 20 minutes and came up with this stupid thing. So I don't know, there's like some 7, there's some 5, there's some kind of King Crimson Discipline era patterns which are bouncing off one another, like patterns which oscillate between 5 and 4, and it's not always consistent. And then there's a 4/4 backbeat, and I think the ride cymbal is a pattern of 5 somewhere. Check it out. Who had the best 80s tones? This is a question I don't really have a definite answer for, because some of my favorite players from the 80s I thought had absolutely objectively terrible guitar sounds, but those sounds kind of worked in the context of the band they were in. And then maybe other players where I go, I absolutely love that guy's guitar tone, but I can't stand any of the songs that his band released. So why don't you all tell me, what are some of your favorite 80s guitar tones? And maybe I'll do a video which is like replicating some classic 80s guitar tones. I know Stryper's going to come up and Guns N' Roses is going to come up, and stuff like some of the George Lynch lead tones and Vito Bratta and Skid Row. The Skid Row stuff was really, really solid. If I had to say who had the best kind of tone as one person. Probably Michael Wagner. Can people agree on that? Because all the stuff he released was pretty epic sounding. But yeah, I don't know if I have a very good answer for that, aside from stuff Michael Wagner did, specifically his 88 MP1 era tones. But you guys tell me in the comments, what are some of your favorite 80s tones? And yeah, let's cook up a video and do something like that. I have a few more questions to get through. I asked for spicy questions last week, and someone asked me if I prefer chili or cayenne. I'm definitely a chili guy. We grow some of our own chilies here, and I just made some chili sauce with them, which kind of blew my face off. It was really, really good. There was some habaneros, there was some like Trinidad scorpions, I think some reapers and a few other things like that. So yeah, all the really spicy stuff. Cam, the drummer in Ragdoll, is like the chili master though. There was a period in time where he would bring a little chilled thing with him with some of his incredibly spicy chilies, and we'd add them to everything we ate. So I've had some pretty wild experiences eating really, really, really hot chilies, and some kind of desperate moments as well, where it's like, am I dying? What's happening to me? Am I seeing the face of God appear in the clouds, or did I just eat some hot chilies? So yeah, chili for me all the way. All right, you heard the polyrhythms. Sorry, I'm looking at my questions here. I feel like an absolute unprofessional slob, but I am an unprofessional slob. So here's some more guitar, and we'll do one more question. And the last question, of course, is you can only see a full stack right about there above my thumb. What's going on with that? That is my dad's old gigging rig, because of course in the 80s everyone had a full stack. It is a JCM 800 2210 with two matching cabinets, so a 1960A and a 1960B. They both have 75 watt Celestians in it, and it is like crushingly, ridiculously loud. Just like you think you know what loud is, and then you play through that thing and it's on 1 and it's still crushingly loud. So that would probably make a pretty fun little video if I can find somewhere to basically get atomic bomb levels of volume happening. But yeah, I'll do a video with that at some point if you're interested in it. All right, that is Friday Q&A for another week. If you're in Western Australia, anywhere, Ragdoll are out in Kalgoorlie next weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the Exchange Hotel. The week after, we are at the Indie Bar in Scarborough. So if you're looking to get your live music fix at the start of summer, please come out. I would love to see some of you there. Otherwise, stay safe, be excellent to one another. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.